Okay.
You're on.
All right. My name is Shelley Evers. I'm the chair of the Pastoral Council, and we wanted to do a specific training video for our Eucharistic ministers and our ushers. There's several volunteers in the pews here right now that are part of our Eucharistic ministry and our usher program. Very dedicated group of people, but there are a lot of people that couldn't make this training or might be new to our volunteer program. And we wanted to have this training video available. Actually, I'll take that down. We wanted to have this training video available so that you would all be able to be consistently practicing the same way each weekend. I'm going to point out a couple of the major changes, first of all. The first thing you're going to notice, starting the weekend of October 3rd and 4th, this does not count for next weekend, the Eucharistic ministers will not be wearing gloves. There was a lot of inconsistencies with that and concerns about the sanitizing on the gloves, etc. We are going to use our hands, the way the host and the body should be handled. We will be sanitizing, but we're not going to use our gloves. The other thing that you're going to notice is that when we had to social distance and close off pews, handicap seating was lost. So we're going to add seating in section 1 by the crying room and section 5 over here by the choir loft. And they will be marked with handicap signs, and we're hoping it'll be temporary during our COVID restrictions. But for right now, this is the process we're going to use. So again, handicap seating in the back like we've always had, and handicap seating in pews 1 and 5. The one big thing that you're going to see different is that the communion distribution to our handicapped sections and the communion distribution in the activity center will look the same. In that when the communion time starts, the usher will go to each individual person in those rows, and they'll take the bottle of spray, and they will spray everybody's hands. No one in the handicapped section and no one in the activity center leaves their seats for communion. The Eucharistic minister and the usher will come to them, spray them, and distribute communion. Everybody else in the church is going to move for communion. The new change for communion is to go back to the way that we did it before COVID. Right now we're doing a process where people go backwards and around. We're going to go back to doing it the way we used to. It makes more sense that way. We will be removing the arrows off the floor. The Eucharistic ministers are assigned right now to sections 1, 2, and 3. And I want to make something clear for that. We have Eucharistic minister chains that are held up on the hooks over there. They are labeled. And it is really important that when you grab your chain, you look at the number for consistency and for lack of confusion to the other ministers. There are 3 church EM, number 1, lead, number 2, and number 3. You are in the church if you grab these. They have blue tape on the back. Church number 1, lead, is this section right here and this section right here. That's section 1 and section 2. Church EM number 2 is section 3 and section 4. And church EM number 3 is section 5, along with the choir loft volunteers, the handicapped pews in the back, the narthex, and the people in their cars. So this person is kind of jumping a lot, but they don't have as many people in these pews, so they will be able to finish at about the same time. So I wanted to make sure we stressed that. There are 2 more chains that are marked AC, or Activity Center, number 1 and number 2. That basically is referring to when you walk in the Activity Center, the left side, number 1, and the right side, looking at the stage, number 2. That's it. So again, if you're a Eucharistic minister in the Activity Center, you're going to follow your usher who will be spraying your parishioners' hands, and then you will go distribute communion to them. And you can approach them from the front or however you want to do it. We don't care about that. Just make sure that everybody in your section gets their communion, okay? We're not going to speak too much to the Activity Center, and I'm not going to go in there and show you that. I just wanted to make sure we pointed it out. So again, reiterate, please grab a tag and know which minister you are. Lead minister, minister number 2, or minister number 3. Okay, I'm going to set these down. We also, for ushers, need to know that we are opening our commons doors. So the signs currently are on the doors right now that say, please exit narthex doors. We are now going to have people get the ability to exit out the commons doors or the door over by the choir. This is allowing people more freedom, especially for that section that are stuck there for quite a while when we try to exit with social distancing, okay? So our ushers are going to, when mass dismissal starts, they're going to prop these doors open and the outside doors, and then they're going to allow people to exit that way. Ushers, at the beginning of mass, we are also going to open these doors for people to come in, and that one if they want to. We want to make sure that our handicapped people have very little walking to do, and if that one is filling up, they have the option to come up here. So we have to prop doors open. We want to have the least amount of touch contact to the doors, so at the beginning of mass, and then at the dismissal time. We're going to open those doors and prop them so that people can just go in and out. You can tell them, it's part of the cantor's script, which is going to be changing, to let people know that they can go out those doors. But the ushers are not going to direct anybody out those doors. That's the people's choice to do. You are going to continue to dismiss them from the back of church all the way to the front of church in your own section as the timing is appropriate the way that has always been. So that isn't going to change. So you're going to dismiss from the back, the closest to the back of our church, and then toward the front of each of your sections, one section at a time. Okay, or in the center, we've been alternating row by row from the back to the front. All right. I believe, the ushers at the beginning of Mass are doing a great job of clicking as people are coming into church. Because we're adding the commons doors, one of our ushers that's assigned in the church is going to need to be clicking in here. So we have to have a communication between the ushers in the back of church and the ushers in the commons door here so that they can greet people and click them as they come in. That number can then be added to the clicker back here after Mass starts, or however they're going to do their counting, they can determine that. But we want to make sure we have both numbers added together. And then the ushers are continuing to survey the church to make sure that people are safely sitting 6 feet apart. That's the key. We are not limited by numbers anymore. We're limited by how well we can sit 6 feet apart, both here and in the activity center. The activity center is going to have soon, hopefully soon, a new screen. We know that screen is small. Linda Dykes from our environment committee did a great job of trying to add a little environment to the activity center that otherwise could be very sterile. And I am going to be having kneeling pads. There will be like 60 of them so that people can consecrate themselves and go on their knees during the consecration, just like they would be in here. There are no kneelers, so we're going to try to bring a little bit more of that ambience and that reverence back into the Mass. Now, you're going to notice in the sanitizing stations, we're only going to have 3 sections. We are going to have one positioned off to the side of section 1 over here by the crying room. Then we're going to have one, I don't think you can see it with the screen, but we have one sanitizing section in the middle of between sections 3 and 4, and it's pulled forward into the front of church a little bit, so it's not way in back where the gifts table used to be. It's pulled up a little bit. And then we have a stand that's over by the choir loft that's kind of pushed up against one of the cordoned off pews. So that is where the sanitizing spray is going to be. Ushers, when it's time for communion, you're going to take your bottle of spray to your section. So if you're section 1, and we're going to go through each section very quickly, one by one, so that you see this, but I'm just going to overview it. You following me? Sorry, I'm moving now. They're trying to follow me. You're going to go, usher number 1 is going to go in front of their Eucharistic minister, and you're going to spray the hands of the handicapped people in section 1, and you're going to allow that Eucharistic minister to distribute communion. You're then going to allow each of the people in these pews in section 1 to approach the Eucharistic minister, who's going to be right here. When that section is done, the usher is then going to spray the hands of everybody in this section, in section 2, in the front row. You're going to spray the hands of everybody in the front rows of all your sections, but only sections 1 and 5 will stay seated. The other people will move, okay? But you're going to spray their hands because we have the sanitizing station behind them. So spray row 1, and then you're going to dismiss them toward the Eucharistic minister, and they're just going to go back into their pew the way they used to. Eucharistic minister number 2 and usher number 2 are going to be right here. Eucharistic minister will stand right here. Usher is going to go to section 3 and section 4, spray everybody's hands. Then they're going to take the bottle and put it back on the sanitizing stand. When it's time for communion, they're going to dismiss row 1 in section 3, row 1 in section 4, row 2 in section 3, row 2 in section 4, and alternate all the way to the back of church. This communion minister will not distribute to the handicap section, though. Now let's move to section 5. So section 5, ushers spray the hands. Eucharistic minister stands right here where they always did. And then these people will be dismissed. If there are people in the choir loft, they will come forward first, spray them first, or allow them to spray themselves and come up first. The usher will then spray the people in the front row. Well, their hands, not the people. Sorry. Spray the people's hands in the front row. And then allow communion distribution to happen the way that it always did. When that Eucharistic minister and that usher are done with this section, they're going to proceed to the back of church. The usher will spray the hands of all the handicapped people, and then the Eucharistic minister will individually go up to each one. If the Eucharistic minister cannot reach them because they're in that section and maybe the pews are in the way, simply lift the tape off, go into the pew, distribute to the person or persons you might need to reach, and then retape the pew. When you're done with the handicap sections back there, then this usher and this Eucharistic minister will go back into the narthex. And they're going to make sure that the people back there spray their hands, and then you're going to administer or distribute communion to them. And then by that time, the usher is calling the people in their cars. And the few people that might be in their cars will come forward and come through the narthex. So, with that being said, we're going to start kind of running through this, starting over there. I'm kind of talking to Dan and John, who are on the video right now, trying to be on the video. Oh, you have a spray bottle, okay. Pardon me while we reset a little bit. I have an usher and a Eucharistic minister in each section. So my Eucharistic minister and my usher number 1 come forward. So Rich and Steve are my first guinea pigs. So Eucharistic minister, can you see me okay? Good. Eucharistic minister and my usher. So when it's time for communion distribution, they are going to come forward. My Eucharistic minister will stand right here, and my usher will spray everybody's hands in the front row. My Eucharistic minister will then go to the person in the front row, this is the handicap section, and distribute communion one by one. Then my Eucharistic minister will come back, and my usher will start escorting people from their pews, one at a time. Well, he won't move, but that's okay. Coming up and going back around their pews until this whole section in section 5 is done. So you spray your hands now at the sanitizing station that's stationed right by that cordoned off pew. When we are done with section 1, the usher will then spray the hands of everybody in section 2 in the front pews. They will be moving. He will replace the sanitizing station here, and these people will exit pew 1. So Fred is sitting in the front row here. I don't know if you can see him. Fred would get up, and he would, can you get up? Yep, this way. This way. They're all new at this. He would come up to receive communion. He would approach the Eucharistic minister. He would receive his communion, and then he would go back to his pew. And then the next row would have already been escorted. Lisa is going to come up. She's going to spray her hands, and she's going to approach the Eucharistic minister. Obviously, this would go quicker, but I'm prompting them as we're going. This section is, and we would continue until this section is done. This is our lead Eucharistic minister. So at this point, Rich would come up to the altar, and he would just wait, because he's going to collect all the ciboriums and take care of disposing the host back into the tabernacle. Eucharistic minister number 2 and usher number 2. Come on up here. Okay. So now we have our center section, Eucharistic minister and our usher. So our usher will come up, and she will spray section, I don't care which way you go, it doesn't matter to me. 3, 4, 4, 3, I don't care. Spray everybody's hands in the first row you're going to do, and then I would go back into down the aisle, because you won't spray anybody yet. Replace that, or you can spray everybody in the first row. Sure, you can do that. Do everybody first. When she's done spraying both rows of the first rows of these sections, she will replace the sanitizing spray bottle back on the stand, and the people in the front row will be triggered by our usher to go forward toward our Eucharistic minister. receive communion, and go back to their seats. The second section, row 1, is going to be, I shouldn't say second section, but the other section will come up and receive communion and go back around to their seats and alternating. So now we have the next person in this section comes up, and then we're going to alternate to this section. So we're going to go back and forth until everybody on the center section has been distributed to, stopping at our handicap section. Okay? Because remember, we're going to have our usher over here and our Eucharistic minister over here do that. Excellent. We're just going to keep alternating. So there's no anxiety of I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. All right, excellent. He would then take his ciborium and he would give that to the lead Eucharistic minister, like we've been doing, and receive communion. Eucharistic minister number 3, usher number 3. Anybody that is in the choir loft will have to spray their hands on the station, but our usher will spray everyone in the first row and replace the sanitizing spray. The people in the choir loft that want to come up for communion would come up, and then Linda, our EM, would start distributing communion to first row. Come on around. Oh, this is handicap. Oh, thank you, Sue. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. This is our handicap pew. She will distribute communion to everybody in the first row. Thank you. And then our usher will start having everybody come pew by pew and go around the way we always did. When Linda is done and Steve is done in this section, they're going to walk back to the back of church. Sorry, my mic keeps turning on my head. They're going to walk to the back of church, and Steve, our usher, is going to spray the hands of all of the people in the handicap section. They're doing it back there, but I know that we can't get our cameras back there. Spray the hands of everybody in those back sections. Start with that section, move to this section, however you want to do it, it doesn't matter. Just make sure everybody gets communion. And then when they're done with that, they're going to move, the usher is always ahead, they're going to move to the narthex and make sure that everybody in the narthex is spraying their hands with the bottle that's already there. And then the communion will be distributed, and then they're going to signal the people in the cars. And the people in the cars will be distributed to. And that is our process. So once again, we're distributing person to person in the front row of section 1 and front row of section 5. And everybody in the activity center, as well as all the people in the handicap section. Okay, so that's a big change. The Eucharistic minister is not wearing gloves. And remember, at the dismissal of Mass, we're going to allow people the choice on their own to go out the doors back here. I'm going to pause right now because I'm going to ask everybody that's in here to remind me if I forgot anything. There is a silent group, and I don't think they're asleep. Linda. Yes, you are doing it simultaneously. That would, yeah, exactly. I did it one by one to show you. But when it's time for communion and the Eucharistic minister has their ciborium, when it's appropriate, and you and your usher, the usher needs to be there first. So if the Eucharistic minister is particularly fast, wait for your usher. And your usher will start spraying hands, replace the sanitizing bottle, and escorting people up to you, okay? And then when you're done with both of your sections, or however it looks, your section plus all the other miscellaneous things, then you take your ciborium back up to the lead Eucharistic minister, which is always this minister, Eucharistic minister number 1, and receive communion when you're done from that lead Eucharistic minister, which is what we've been doing, okay? I cannot stress important enough, when you grab your chain, follow that section. Don't go rogue. Look at your chain, please, because it causes confusion when I grab chain number 2 and I think I'm going to be right here, and then I look down at the altar to go to my place and someone's standing here. Okay, it's really important to follow your section. So if you like a particular section, then get here early so you can grab the chain you want. And the ushers will assign themselves, but there should be an usher for every Eucharistic minister. Our sacristans will be communicating ahead of time with the ushers to know if there are a lot of people in the activity center, which is what they've been doing, and they've been doing it very well. And we have had about 60 people up to this point, so this is, again, middle of September, but we've had about 60 people in the activity center, so we've been using 5 Eucharistic ministers and 5 ushers. So, what's that? No, Saturday had it also. Oh, 4 ushers you're talking about? We'd ideally like to have 5 ushers. There are 2 sections in the activity center. There's no reason we have only 1 in there. We want to have 5 ushers, 5 Eucharistic ministers, and they're always paired up. And I have one more question from Steve, one of our ushers. Yes. So I will repeat the question because they can't hear, but what Steve is asking is when the Eucharistic minister and the usher number 3 go to their section, so follow me, gentlemen. When the usher comes over here, grab the bottle right away, spray the few hands that are in the front row, replace it back. The choir loft volunteers will spray their hands and come forward to the Eucharistic minister first, and they will go back. And then the usher will start escorting his or her people out of their pews. Okay, so spray the hands of the people in the first row first. And the Eucharistic minister will distribute to them after the choir loft is done. They will get their communion, but they may wait until the choir loft volunteers are done. We want to prioritize them because oftentimes it's our liturgist or our cantor and our tech team that need to be right back in their sections again. So they're a priority, but spray hands right away so you can replace the bottle and continue with your process ushers. Okay? Is there anything else that I missed? Anything else? I have written up guidelines that I'll be distributing to the coordinators, and you'll be getting it in print or in your email. But it'll have the, you know when you buy a bookcase at Walmart and you want to put it together, and you could either just look at it and think, okay, I know where to put this screw. Or you can read the 10-page document on how to put screw A into hole B. You can watch this video, or you can read the big document. I don't really care which one you do, but at least you have it one way or the other. So our coordinators can use this for training their new members. One more question. Yes, Mayor. Sorry, take your mask down. 1 second. Oh, yeah. So Mary's asking if when we take off the medals, the Eucharistic minister take off their chains off of their neck, do we put it back in the basket or put it back on the hooks? It really doesn't matter. You can do either one. They're not really in an order up there. Sometimes I think people put them back, church 1, church 2, church 3, AC1, AC2. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure you turn your tag around and look at it so you know exactly where you are. Repeated. Church 1, lead Eucharistic minister. Church number 2. Church number 3, activity center 1 is the left side of the activity center. Activity center number 2 is the right side, facing the stage. Okay? Yeah. Yes. At the Lamb of God, the Eucharistic ministers will go to the back of the sacristy behind the wall, spray your hands. Your masks are up because you're not going to receive communion yet, so put your masks up first. They should be up. They shouldn't be down. Spray your hands. Don't touch your mask. And then receive your ciborium from the lead Eucharistic minister. The lead Eucharistic minister, as you've seen for the last several months, will have their mask down. They will receive communion from the priest, and then they will put their mask back up and they will sanitize their hands. And at that point, then the other Eucharistic ministers will receive a ciborium from that lead Eucharistic minister that's over there. Okay?
Shelley, are they going to sanitize medals when they're done, or the medallions?
The church cleaners can take care of that part. Yes, we will sanitize the medals. Okay? Yes, Joan? Yeah. No, don't worry about the process. So if you're a Eucharistic minister that's going to go to the activity center and you have a tag AC1 or AC2, more than likely you're going to go out that door because that's where you received your ciborium. Just proceed down to the activity center and then come back. You're going to end up over here handing in your ciborium, so you might as well just go through that door. Sorry about this thing. How do they wear these all? God's hit me in the neck. I'm not meant to be on the stage. Anything else? I have a really good group of people that do this a lot, so I feel like any questions that could have been asked have already been asked. But again, my name is Shelley Evers. My number is in the bulletin. And any of the coordinators for our ministries, Sue Rock Teacher leads our ushers, and Carol Pearson and Linda Wagnitz help with our Eucharistic ministers. Carol has not been on site too much, but she's doing all the emailing and she's doing a great job. Linda Wagnitz has been more on site, helping with the day-to-day or the training, etc. So those are our coordinators for those two ministries. So if you have any questions, you definitely can reach out to them. Anybody that's volunteering for ushers or Eucharistic minister will be in Ministry Pro, which is our app that lists all of our volunteers for each of the weekend masses. Not weekday, but the weekend masses. Okay? Thank you for listening to the training, and if you have any questions, you can contact the office or you can contact me directly. Thank you.